My wife and I just had our first baby. 2 days after bringing him home, our neighbor rang the doorbell and said, "I'll be watching him on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's only fair, you owe me for the fence repairs." I thought it was a joke. That night, I found her on our porch, reaching through the window cradle, whistling a lullaby. When I confronted her, she screamed, "You're not fit parents! He should have been mine!" I changed the locks. But the next week, I got a call from CPS saying there was an anonymous tip about my wife's mental health. I'm Dan, 36. I work in HVAC, been doing it since I was 19. My wife Rachel is 34. She's a school nurse. We've been together 8 years, married for 5. And for 3 of those years, all we wanted was a baby. 2 miscarriages nearly broke us. The second one, Rachel had to deliver a stillborn at 22 weeks. That night, she sobbed into my chest until she passed out. I felt useless. But we didn't give up. We saved money. We saw doctors. We prayed. And then finally, last month, we got to bring home our son, Mason. He was born by emergency C-section, but he made it. He's healthy. Has Rachel's nose and my stubborn lungs. We brought him home on a Friday. It was supposed to be a fresh start for our little family. 2 days later, Deborah showed up. We live in Bakersfield, California. Hot summers, quiet streets. Our neighborhood's mostly older couples and retirees. Nobody really talks much, except Deborah. Deborah's lived here longer than we have. Single, maybe early 50s. Always has some comment about everyone's yard or car. One time she told me my garbage bins weren't aligned with city code. Another time she asked Rachel if she was emotionally ready for a child. That was before the second miscarriage. Rachel cried for hours. I should have seen the signs. A year ago, a windstorm knocked down part of our shared fence. I told Deborah I'd get someone to fix it, but she didn't wait. She hired a contractor without telling me and then demanded I pay half, $2,800. I told her I'd chip in eventually, but she was the one who jumped the gun. She didn't like that. Gave me the cold shoulder for months. I didn't care. Then Mason was born. That Sunday, the doorbell rang. I was rocking Mason in the recliner. Rachel was napping. I opened the door and saw Deborah on the porch, dressed like she was heading to church. Sun visor, a beige sweater tied around her shoulders, and that stupid fluffy white dog on a leash. She smiled like we were old friends. "I'll be watching him on Tuesdays and Thursdays," she said. I laughed, thinking I misheard. "Watching who?" "The baby," she said. "It's only fair. You owe me for the fence. I'm not asking for money. I'm offering help. You both need it." I stared at her. "No. That's not happening. We didn't ask you to fix the fence, and we don't need your help." Her smile twitched. "Don't be prideful. Rachel doesn't look well. You're clearly overwhelmed. I raised 3 nephews. I know what I'm doing." I closed the door. Didn't say anything else. I figured she'd leave. Thought that would be the end of it. That night, I heard Mason crying around 1:30. Rachel was in the shower, so I went to check on him. As I walked through the living room, something caught my eye through the window. I froze. Deborah was on our front porch, reaching through the cracked bay window. She was whistling a lullaby, low and slow. Her arm was halfway through the screen. I couldn't see her face clearly, but her dog was sitting next to her like this was normal. I slammed the window shut and yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" She jerked back and screamed, "You're not fit parents! He should have been mine!" I ran to the door, but she was already halfway down the sidewalk. Rachel came out wrapped in a towel, panicked. I told her everything. She started crying. I didn't sleep that night. Changed the locks at 4 a.m. Bought security cameras online and installed them the next day. I filed a report with the police. They said they'd log it but couldn't do anything unless she entered the house or hurt someone. Then, 3 days later, CPS showed up. A man and a woman. Said they got an anonymous tip claiming Rachel was mentally unstable, wasn't feeding the baby, and that I was aggressive. They had to do a wellness check. Rachel was breastfeeding when they knocked. When she opened the door and saw their badges, she just crumbled. I'd never seen her look so small. They interviewed both of us separately. Asked about postpartum depression, substance use, marital stress. We cooperated fully. They left after 2 hours and told us everything looked fine, but they had to file a report and might follow up. Rachel shut down after that. She wouldn't go outside. She barely ate. Every time the doorbell rang, she jumped. Every time the dog barked, she flinched. Deborah kept walking past our house with that smug look. Sometimes she'd stop and stare. One time she waved. I didn't wave back. That's when I knew I had to do something. Legal options were moving too slow. She was trying to destroy us, and it was working. She wanted Mason. She wanted Rachel gone. She wanted me scared. But I wasn't going to let her win. So I started digging. I started by asking around. Went to a few neighbors on the block. Most were polite but clearly didn't want to get involved. Except for Mr. Alvarez, a retired mechanic who lives across the street. He's in his late 60s. Quiet guy, but he's always outside fixing something or trimming his hedges. He told me something that chilled me to the bone. "You're not the first one she's gotten CPS called on," he said. I stared at him. "What?" He nodded. 3 years ago, young couple lived in that gray house 2 doors down. Had a baby girl. Deborah didn't like the way they left the stroller too close to the sun one afternoon. Next week, boom, CPS showed up. Then again a month later. Family moved out within 6 months. I asked if they ever pressed charges. He shook his head. Couldn't prove anything. It was always anonymous. I felt sick. I went back home and started documenting everything. I made a binder. Every incident. Dates. Times. What she said. What she did. I pulled the footage from our new cameras and burned copies. I printed out the CPS visit log. I even took screenshots of her standing outside our house, zoomed in on her face. Then I bought a cheap voice recorder. I wore it on my belt, under my shirt, every time I left the house. I started walking Mason in a stroller around the neighborhood, hoping she'd confront me again. And she did. It was a Thursday afternoon. Rachel was asleep. I took Mason around the block, and as I turned the corner, there she was. Standing in her yard with that damn dog, watering the same patch of grass she always obsesses over. She saw me, smiled, and walked right over. "How's the little guy doing?" she asked, fake sweet. I kept my voice calm. "He's doing fine." She leaned in, peered into the stroller, then whispered, "You know, it's not too late to reconsider. I could give him a better life." I swallowed hard. "You need to back off." Her smile disappeared. "You're a violent man. I've seen the way you slam your doors. The yelling. You're a danger." That was a lie. I never yelled around her, never slammed anything. But I said nothing and kept walking. When I got home, I played the recording back. Clear as day. That was enough to get a lawyer interested. I took everything to a local attorney, Lisa Granger. She's sharp. Works with family harassment cases. After reviewing everything, she said, "She's not just being weird. She's stalking and harassing. We can get a restraining order." We filed immediately. The hearing was set for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, Lisa advised me to keep documenting, don't engage, and let the police know about every encounter. But Deborah must have gotten wind of it. Because 4 nights later, I woke up to the sound of shattering glass. Rachel screamed. I grabbed my bat and ran into the living room. Someone had thrown a rock through the side window, right where Mason's playpen was set up. Rachel was clutching him, crying. glass everywhere. I ran out the front door, but whoever did it was gone. I checked the cameras. Blurry figure in a hoodie, running down the street. Couldn't see a face, but the build, it looked like her. I showed the footage to the police. Again, not enough to press charges. So I installed more cameras. Floodlights. Motion detectors. I even put one inside the mailbox. I wasn't going to wait for her to get closer again. That's when things took a dark turn. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. No postage stamp. Just dropped in our box. Inside was a photo. Mason. In his crib. Taken through the nursery window. At night. And on the back, written in red marker, "I'll come when you're not looking." Rachel lost it. I called the cops again. Same response, no fingerprints, no proof of who delivered it. Just more documentation. I sent it all to Lisa. She said the photo would help our case, but the hearing was still a week away. We didn't sleep for 3 nights. Then something happened that made everything worse. Rachel's sister called. CPS had shown up at her house. Anonymous tip again, this time saying Rachel had abandoned the baby with a mentally unstable relative. We hadn't even gone over there in weeks. Deborah was trying to make us look like we were giving Mason away. She was setting us up. Slowly, piece by piece, trying to build a case that we were unfit parents. She wasn't just watching us. She was building a story. And the scariest part? She was doing it smart. We started living like prisoners in our own home. Rachel stopped sleeping altogether unless I stayed up to watch over her and Mason. I kept the baby monitor with me everywhere, even when I was in the garage. Every little sound had us looking at each other in fear. I installed privacy film on every window. Covered the nursery one with blackout curtains. Still, Rachel would check it every hour. One night, around 11 p.m., I saw Rachel just standing at the front door, holding a kitchen knife, listening. I whispered, "What are you doing?" She said. I heard her breathing outside. I opened the door and stepped out with the bat. Nothing. But I believed her. Deborah was making us question reality. That's how far she'd pushed us. 3 days before the court hearing, Lisa called. "Dan, I need you to come in." Now. I left Rachel and Mason with her sister, drove straight to the office. When I walked in, Lisa handed me a manila folder. "This just came through public records. Your neighbor filed for guardianship rights." I felt like the floor dropped. "What?" Lisa nodded, jaw tight. "She filed a petition saying she's a relative of Mason's, claiming your wife is unstable, and that you've made violent threats. She's trying to get emergency custody pending an investigation. But she's not family. She's nothing to us. She listed herself as a maternal aunt through informal guardianship agreement. It's all lies. But the problem is, courts sometimes react fast on anything involving child safety. This petition's dangerous if she finds a judge who doesn't look closely." I stood there shaking, not even angry, just stunned. "She wants our son," I said. Lisa didn't even blink. "And she's close to figuring out how to take him." That night, I told Rachel everything. She collapsed on the floor, sobbing. I didn't know what to say. There was no comfort to offer. So I stopped trying to comfort. And started preparing for war. I went to see Mr. Alvarez again. Asked if he'd testify about Deborah's past harassment. He agreed. So did another neighbor, Mrs. Ching, who said Deborah had once tried to open her car door when her grandson was inside. I found the young couple that moved away, the ones Deborah had targeted before. Took me days of online searching, Facebook messages, and cold calls, but I finally tracked them to Sacramento. The dad, Matt, called me back. "She tried to take our daughter," he said flat out. "Said we weren't feeding her right. She called CPS 3 times. My wife had postpartum. That woman fed on it like a shark in water." I asked if he'd testify. He said yes. I turned everything over to Lisa. The day of the hearing, Rachel wore black. She looked like a ghost. I brought every document, photo, video, and witness statement we had. When Deborah walked into the courtroom, she looked smug. Had her hair done, fresh makeup, even a manila folder of her own. She glanced at us, gave Mason a long stare, then smiled. That was her mistake. Because when it was our turn, Lisa didn't hold back. She laid it all out. The recordings, the CPS visits, the fake custody petition, the stalking, the rock through the window, the photo, the witnesses, everything. And then we played the recording. You know, it's not too late to reconsider. I could give him a better life. The judge's face darkened. Deborah's smile dropped for the first time. Lisa ended with this. This woman is not misguided. She's dangerous. And if the court does not intervene, I fear what she'll do next. When Deborah got up to speak, she stuttered. Said it was all taken out of context. Claimed Rachel had offered to let her watch the baby. Then changed her mind after Dan became controlling. The judge cut her off. Ma'am, you are not a relative. You're not a guardian. You're not even a friend of the family. You're a neighbor who has repeatedly inserted yourself into this family's life in disturbing ways. Then he signed the restraining order. 500 feet. Immediate effect. No contact, no messages, no third-party communication. I thought that would be the end. But people like Deborah don't stop because of paper. 2 nights later, we caught her driving slowly past our house. Headlights off. That night, when I saw her car crawl past our house with the headlights off, something in me snapped. I didn't call the cops. I didn't call Lisa. I just watched from the dark behind the curtain as her car crept down the street, then circled the block again. She did it 3 times. Each time slower than the last. She was testing us. Seeing if we were still scared. She wanted us to break. But she didn't know I was already broken, and I had nothing left to lose. The next morning, I took Mason to Rachel's sister's house, an hour away. I told Rachel to stay with them for a few days. I need you safe, I said. Please. Rachel looked at me for a long time. Then she kissed me, picked up Mason, and said, "End this." That afternoon, I filed a report with the police. Gave them the footage of Deborah's car circling the house. I knew it wouldn't be enough. So I took it one step further. I installed a GPS tracker under her car. Illegal? Maybe. Did I care? Not even a little. Then I waited. For 2 days she didn't show. Then the 3rd night she came back. This time she parked half a block down, walked past our house, then lingered across the street like she was waiting for something. Like she was hoping to see Mason again. I had cameras on every angle now. I recorded everything. Her pacing. Her muttering. At one point, she sat down on the curb and rocked back and forth. That's when I got in my truck and followed her home. She didn't notice. She went inside like it was any other night. I waited 15 minutes, then walked right up to her front door and rang the bell. She opened it, shocked. "What are you? You come near my family again, I'll bear you in court. I'll drag every skeleton out of your closet. I'll make it my full-time job. You're threatening me, no? I'm telling you the truth. I'm not scared of you anymore. But you should be scared of me." She slammed the door. I walked away. The next day, I took all the GPS logs, all the new footage, and gave it to Lisa. She was hesitant, but she used it. We went back to court. This time, we filed for a stalking charge. We added the evidence of the restraining order violation. Lisa also pushed to have her declared a public threat based on the photo, the CPS pattern, and witness statements from previous neighbors who came forward after hearing our story. Deborah tried to defend herself. Brought in a lawyer of her own. Said we were harassing her now. That I'd threatened her life. But the judge wasn't buying it anymore. He ordered her to undergo a psych evaluation. And that's when it all unraveled. Turns out, Deborah had a history. A sealed record from another state. Mental health issues. Prior false CPS reports in Oregon. 2 temporary restraining orders filed by unrelated families, both involving small children. When the court saw that, everything changed. They granted us a permanent restraining order. They put her on a watch list for CPS abusive reporting. They flagged her name so she couldn't file anything related to our family ever again without a hearing. And then, her homeowners association got involved. Turns out, her previous behavior had caused complaints before. With this court ruling in hand, the HOA fined her for violating neighborhood safety codes. Her property value dropped. Her house went up for sale 2 months later. She moved. Just like that. We never saw her again. But the damage she did stayed. Rachel needed therapy for months. Mason, thank God, was too young to remember. I still have cameras on every inch of our house. I still check the locks twice every night. And me? I learned that not all evil comes with a mask. Sometimes it wears perfume and walks a little white dog. Deborah thought we were weak. That we'd break and she'd get what she wanted. Instead, she lost everything. And I got my family back. But it cost me pieces of myself I'll never get again.